Hello and welcome to a new episode of Real Spooky Stories, the place where I tell your real spooky stories. If you'd like to share your story, please email me on realspooky-storiesPodcast@gmail.com. It is below if you want to do that. And give us a little follow on any social media, also all linked below as well. So we are more than halfway through January already. What is that about? Please, someone explain. It's just gone so fast, hasn't it? Like always. But anyway, this episode is episode 27. 27 episodes already. How? I know 13 of them were Christmas ones, but still, like, that's a lot of episodes already. And I'm loving this. I'm loving doing this. Thank you so much for listening. But today we have a spooky little episode, and these are all about graveyards. So these are people's stories in graveyards, like what they've seen in graveyards or what they've experienced, or like the house is like opposite the graveyard and they've seen things or whatever. But it's all graveyard related. So I think I've got about 6 stories today. Some are longer than others, but other than that, let's get into the first story. As always, as well, the stories are linked below, so you can click them, have a look at the comments, and whatever. The first one is from True Scary Stories, and the title of the post is just Graveyard Stories. I think like they wrote their experience, and then I think like people comment in their own ones. So I'm not gonna like read them all, but I'll just read like this person's one. I'm a graveyard nerd. It's quiet there and with beautiful landscaping. A great place to take reflective walks. One day it was very hot and I wanted to sit down. The closest thing besides the ground was a crypt that sat alone in the fork of one of the paths. I very respectfully said, "Please may I sit here and rest a while?" As I climbed on top. Almost immediately I felt 2 knocks underneath me. I told myself it's my imagination. 2 more knocks. I say out loud, "I mean you no disrespect. Knock twice more if you just want me to leave." It hesitated, then 2 distinct, hard knocks hit me right in the bum where I sat. I said, okay, I'm going, lol. Another time, I went near dark. I've walked the children's section many times. I've seen the toys people have placed on the children's graves. Some of them look 50 plus years old. This night, I didn't just walk past them. I stopped and thanked all of them for coming here and trying to fulfill their destiny in some way, and told them I'm sorry it was cut short. As soon as I said, "Rest in peace," one of those old decrepit toys began to flash little lights and play music. My significant other noped all the way to the car. I actually stayed and tried to talk, but nothing else happened. Last one, I went to a different graveyard this time, in an old Moravian graveyard, with graves as far back as the 1500s, maybe earlier, but I couldn't read them all. This graveyard has huge hills with mausoleums tucked into the hills. I like to sit on top of one and look out over the whole place. Very serene. This day I sat up there and watched a fox spinning circles way down at the bottom of the hill. He acted confused like he had rabies. I wasn't going to move until he left, so I waited. A woman came from I didn't even know where because I could see the whole place. She walked towards a grave near where this fox was spinning around. I got worried for her and stood up to scream down to her that there was a rabid fox and to run away. But when I stood up, she wasn't there anymore. I waited for the fox to show itself again, but it was gone too. Just like that. Gone. I very cautiously climbed down, went down the hill to where I saw all this happen. No woman, no fox, nothing but quiet graves and beautiful flowers. Spooky. Why, like, I appreciate you going to the cemetery alone, but, like, I would not be, like, sitting on people's mausoleums if I was on my own. I mean, I probably wouldn't do it anyway, but I get, like, you would need to sit down, whatever, but they didn't want you sitting there, and respectfully, you got up after you felt those knocks on your bum. Okay, someone else has commented below. In 2019, I had a dream that I was in a cemetery and got lost. I was walking around and couldn't find the exit. I saw a cemetery worker and asked him how to get out. He said to me, "Once you are in here, there is no way out." In my dream, I was running and never found a way out, and I woke up. A couple of days later, a family friend who has a family flower shop business asked me if I could do a favour and do some deliveries for them because their drivers were all out sick. I said yes. My first delivery was to a gravesite service at a cemetery. I had a very eerie feeling of deja vu. I feel like that little story is just you've getting deja vu because you've just recently had a cemetery dream and now you're in a cemetery, you know? I'll read someone else's comment too. The cemetery in my hometown is big for our area. We played there all the time as kids. We were very respectful. My sister and I were just walking around with a friend and we saw a small white bridge we haven't noticed before. It was new. We thought they just built it for some reason because there was no creek or anything there. We walked to the end and turned around to go back. But when we get back to the bridge, it looked like it was 100 years old. It was falling apart and very decrepit. We ran home and told our parents what we saw. Of course, they didn't believe us. The next day, we go back to the same place and nothing was there. We saw a man that worked there and we asked him about the bridge. He looked at us like we were crazy. He said there was never one in that cemetery. I can't explain what we saw, but I know it really happened. I've never heard of a haunted bridge. I've seen people, like, thinking of things. I've seen, like, buildings appear in places before. Like, I've heard people saying about that. So I wonder what that's about. Like, it's not like a person is coming back to want to, like, see the loved ones or, like, the house what they're in. Like, why is a building appearing and then disappearing again? Maybe it's like a time slip or something. Like, it used to be there and then now it's obviously not there, but maybe it's like a time slip. Okay, there's quite a few comments on there, so if you want to read, have a little read below. It's obviously linked below, as always. But yeah, that was the first story. So let's go on to the second story. This is from the same subreddit, True Scary Stories, and it is titled Ghost in the Graveyard Turned Scary, in brackets, True Story. When people write true story, it just makes me think that it's not true. Because why say it's true on a title on a subreddit called True Scary Stories? You know what I mean? Anyway. A few years ago when I was 12, I was at my grandma's house in the country with all of my cousins. There were 5 of us, ages 13, 12, 10, 6 and 4. We all decided we wanted to play Ghosts in the Graveyard. A game played at night where one person hides and the rest try to find them. And where the hider is found, they try to tag one of the seekers, and you let the hider know you found them by shouting Ghosts in the Graveyard. So the oldest decided they wanted to hide first, my sister. Once they were hidden, me and my cousin, we'll call him Tom, went to go find my sister. We'll call them Dawn. The 2 youngest weren't scared to leave the deck. The 2 youngest were too scared to leave the deck, so me and Tom decided to go looking for Dawn. So for reference, my grandma had a huge yard at the time, like big enough for a pole barn, pool, trampoline and more. Me and Tom approached the propane tank in the yard, and behind it, in the night, you could see a female figure squatting. Me and Tom shouted, "Ghost in the graveyard," and the figure swayed a bit, but didn't move to chase us. I got a little closer and shouted, "Hey, Dawn, we see you, come get us." And still the figure didn't move. We heard the little ones asking us to come back to the deck and let them join me and Tom. We said yes, of course, and we went to search the front yard. Once in the front yard, my sister jumps out from underneath a pine tree and tries to tag us. This immediately sends red flags to me and my cousin. We both turn to Dawn and ask, "Why didn't you try to tag us by the propane tank?" To which Dawn replies, "I was here the whole time." Me and Tom ran back to the propane tank and there was no one behind it. So freaked out, we told everyone to go back inside and didn't tell any of the girls what happened. When me and Tom were alone, we talked about it and came to the conclusion it wasn't an animal, for you could tell they had long straight hair. Then we thought it might have been Dawn, but when we thought about that, we realised it couldn't have been, because although they would have had time to run to the front yard, due to the location of the propane tank, we would have seen or heard something run out from behind it towards the front yard, which means that a stranger was sitting behind my grandma's propane tank and let me get within 6 feet of them. Jump forward to the present. All of us are fairly grown up now. I'm 18. I have forgotten about this for a while, but then for some reason it popped back into my head and I decided to see if it was real and waited for next time me and my cousins would get together to ask everyone about it. Dawn still says she was definitely not behind the propane tank, and when I asked Tom about it, I asked, "Is this some weird dream I had or did this actually happen?" Tom said, "Dude, I thought you didn't remember and I didn't want to bring it up because I didn't want to sound crazy." That's where the story ends. You don't have to believe me, but it did in fact happen, and it freaks me and Tom out this very day. Thank you for reading. Okay, so that one wasn't actually in a graveyard. I just read it as Ghost in the Graveyard. I didn't realise it was a game until I've obviously read it, but it's fine. It's a cool, spooky story to tell anyway. That sounds like a cool game. Is that like an American thing? Because I've never heard that game. But yeah, it's quite spooky. Also, I would be like, come, like, I'll be going to everyone, like, come with me again. I'd be like telling my family, telling my grandma what I saw and everything. Maybe not right away, but like at some point I would. Because I'd want to know if she has seen anything like that before. Like, that's quite spooky. Okay, so this one is from True Scary Stories again and is titled Witnessed a Ritual in a Cemetery. This happened about 5 years ago, back when I was going through hard times and was homeless. I used to live in Denver, CO, which is where this took place. There are several cemeteries in the Denver area, but there is one on the outskirts of Denver that's very large and very old. I think it may be the oldest one that's still being actively used. Before I became homeless, I didn't know much about this area. I had always gotten a creepy feeling around here, but I didn't know why until I was on the streets. After that, I heard from many different people that it's got lots of underground tunnels and some homeless people live in these tunnels. But in the deeper tunnels, there is cult activity. These tunnels have secret entrances all over the area, and the homeless that live around the area avoid some of these spider holes because people have been known to disappear near them, mostly women. This area has a river going through it, alongside the graveyard. One side of the river has a darker feel than the other. It's eerie over there and smells like death. Anyways, one time I was wandering the area with a few other acquaintances, safety in numbers and all that. We had nowhere to go and decided to hang out in the abandoned part of the graveyard, the older side. It had just gotten dark and it was windy. It was also fall, so it was cold. We were huddled up against the gravestones to block the wind. One of the people I was with knew the area better than me and he warned me to be very vigilant. I figured this was so we didn't attract the attention of security or police or fellow homeless, but I later found out why he was so anxious about the area. It was probably around 10 p.m. We had sort of all just been sitting in silence, trying to stay warm, hoping the night passed quickly, when I heard my acquaintance, let's call him Jay, whisper, "Hey, heads up, keep quiet." I had already been quiet, but I immediately tensed up, assuming he spotted security or something. But as I looked around, I saw in the distance some small, flickering lights appearing here and there from all around the graveyard. It's like people had been spread all around the large graveyard and they were all holding lighters that they flicked on, which only then showed they were all over. After my eyes adjusted a bit, I recognised they seemed to be candles. I looked harder and could sort of see the outlines of people holding these candles. Jay whispered, "We gotta go." We clumsily started grabbing the few items we had around us. Jay came right up next to me and said, "Follow me and don't look at them." I was thinking, WTF? Me and our other friends quickly started following Jay, moving at a quick walk straight to the break in the fence where we had come in. I was stupid enough to look behind me and saw the light/figures continuing to appear all around us, and they were walking to the middle of the graveyard to stand in a circle. I passed by a few and saw out of the corner of my eye they were wearing black cloaks. I could feel the menacing presence and stares, like they were daring me to look at them, but I had an overwhelming feeling that if we left them alone, that they would leave us alone. One thing that haunted me afterwards was the way they seemed to move towards the middle. They moved quickly and smoothly, like they were gliding, a stereotype, I know, and just seemed to morph out of the darkness. My instincts were on high alert. I knew whoever they were pure evil. We got the hell out of there, and once we got to the fence, we full-on sprinted for a few blocks. Jay didn't explain much, but he just said to avoid these people and don't look at them in the eye or they could have power over you. I definitely had gotten that feeling from the encounter. I asked why they weren't scared of cops or security, and he said basically that they got away with stuff they did because the authorities didn't want to risk looking into it because they didn't want to be targeted. I don't know how true this is, but I do know what I saw and felt. I have several scary experiences during my time in Denver and some other stories about this area, so you guys let me know if you want more background or want to hear the other things I've experienced/heard about this area. Somebody has commented, do you think they were trying to do a ritual or either summon or resurrect something or someone? And the OP has commented back, I don't know, but I think they maybe do sacrifices because the same guy, Jay, told me at another point they had a very close friend who had been found dead in that same graveyard of a supposedly self-inflicted stab wound in the neck that was ruled a suicide. The thing is that friend never shown any suicidal tendencies or thoughts, had been acting paranoid the last few weeks of his life. He thought that he was being followed. This man was a homeless, disabled vet, so it's hard to say where his mind was at, but apparently Jay knew him well and believed suicide was not likely. Even if it was, that's a very unusual way to do it and a weird place to do it. There were also rumours that the disappearing women were being taken by the same group into the lower levels of the tunnels for sacrifices as well. This is all hearsay, but after what I saw and the feeling I got from that place, and the fact I heard this from multiple people who did not know each other, gives me the reason to think there's definitely something to it. I think whatever they were doing was cult/satanic related, rather than trying to contact a dead loved one or something like that. Somebody else has put, like, why did the police not do their jobs? And someone else has commented, the reason the cops don't do anything is because some of the people are cops, lawyers, judges. These satanic cults are always tied to the elites. I was going to say, like, literally, whenever you see, I know it's, like, on TV or even one of the real, like, cult people, you don't even know, like, you obviously wouldn't know, like, you literally, your next door neighbour could be in a cult. And I'm not saying, like, they all meet in a cemetery, like, that's very stereotypical, but I'm not saying it doesn't happen. And I have got a cemetery in Liverpool, obviously, if you can tell my accent, it's Liverpool. But in St James Cemetery, we did, like, a ghost tour there once. And it's very spooky. If anyone wants to come with me one day, in the night time or something, I'm up for that. But anyway, they said that, like, there's people in cloaks that come there and, like, on, like, you can walk, like, up, and it's all, what's it called, like, tombs? Not tombs, like, thingy, like, in the walls, where it's, like, they're, like, boarded up in the walls, but they said, like, you see people, like, with candles and, like, hoods on and stuff, always there. But that could literally be, I mean, it's probably just, like, teenage kids or something, but you really don't know, especially, like, in a graveyard. A graveyard's such a place where it's secretive because people would not be there, like, in the night, you know what I mean? And I would ask my friend, that Jay guy, more information, please, because, yeah, he's told you a few little things, but I want to know more, like, what are they? Like, what are they? You know what I mean? What are they? Who are they? What do they want? What are they doing? Like, you know what I mean? That was a spooky one. Like, cults just interest me, you know, like, especially, like, satanic cults, they just really interest me. I don't know why, they just do. Okay, let's go on to the next story. So this one is taken from Paranormal Encounters, and it is titled Sofas at Graveyard. This is a repost of a story I posted on Paranormal subreddit because I need answers to this. I'm an amateur ghost hunter and I only have one tool, which is an EMF reader. Well, I didn't really use that, but anyway, I had the goddamn weirdest thing that has ever happened to me. Let me explain. One day, I was feeling a little crazy and decided, you know what, I'm going to a graveyard. I have no idea what courage I got that day, but it was some weird stuff. Anyway, I got a few friends and we took a look over at the graveyard. We didn't really see that much at first, so we split up into groups. The other group didn't find anything significant. When I say that, I mean nothing at all. And neither did my group. We decided to group back up and then it got weird. We saw a small hill and decided to look down it, and we saw two random-ass sofas. This was especially weird because it was a pretty long-ass hill and there were two sofas on the bottom. There was a pretty short road leading to the path which also had a dead end. We went down the hill and saw the small bit of the woods that was not affected by modern day life. My friends got scared and decided to stay back while I got closer and closer. Then I heard rustling in a nearby bush. I looked behind me and my friends were sort of just standing there. I bolted back and told them we should get out of here. We decided to climb up the hill and go back to the area I live in. Part 2. I noticed some people were saying that homeless would live there. I understand that is a possibility, but the next thing solidified it. I got cocky and decided to go back there with only one friend that was not there previously, and I regret that decision so bad. We were walking there and there were more cars than normal, weirdly. This could have been a coincidence, but there were at least 15 to 20 cars that went by just when crossing a road. When we arrived there, my friend, I will call him Jack, was acting really weird. He never acts as cautious as he was in the graveyard. When we made it to the sofas, there was an extra glass table and a note on a tree. We went down and Jack and me heard something in a bush again. We noped it the hell out there, and while we were walking, a few dogs were looking at me. One stray decided to look at me, dead in the eyes, and run away. We were less than a kilometre away from my house, only an extra 100 metres maybe, and we looked behind us. A black-robed person standing there. Looking back, I think I saw a skinwalker a few times there. Considering that I live in Canada and believe the crawlers, skinwalkers and wendigos are the same thing, I call their species pale creatures. That's a lot of proof. If you're still not convinced, a few days before this happened, there was a non-human handprint on my window. It's gone now, but it was really weird. I will add that after the first time with that group of friends, all of them received faint scratches except me. If you have any more questions, please comment them. Somebody has commented, skinwalkers are Navajo wizards who disguise themselves as animals through black magic to consume the human soul, and wendigos are cannibalistic spirits who possess those who eat human flesh, but only in winter into forests. That dog was clearly a skinwalker trying to lure you into a trap. Don't go back there. As for the scratches, I can't associate it with anything I've ever heard of. It's a really intriguing mystery. The OP has commented back, I went back there twice in fact, and nothing weird happened those other 2 times. I also went back to practice baseball today with a friend and more weird stuff happened. It wants both of us and I'm sure of it. the person's commented back, I've heard that fire is effective against skinwalkers. I don't know if it's true. So if you think you've seen a skinwalker, maybe try a little fire. This sounds strange. I'm not really sure what story's even about, to be honest. Like, I feel like it's about the sofas. Like, the sofas, I feel like, yeah, I get that it's weird, and like, are you saying like it's weird that they shouldn't have been there, and the place where they are, like, there shouldn't have been a sofa there or something? I don't really know what you're trying to say. But anyway, spooky things happened in a graveyard, and I'm here for it. Okay, the next one is from the subreddit Paranormal Encounters as well, and it's titled, My Dog Was Scared of Something at the Cemetery. In my town, there's a small cemetery near the main street. It's very old, and the people buried there died between the late 1700s and the late 1800s. By the entrance, there's a plaque with names of the soldiers that died in the Revolutionary War that were from my town. It's a pretty cool piece of local history. Anyway, I have a 2-year-old dog who I walk every day. I usually take her for a walk on my street, but after a while, the same scenery can get old, so I decided to start walking her around my town where there's a sidewalk. We don't go every day, but when we do, she gets so excited to walk in a new place with a lot of new stimuli. The sidewalk through town takes us past this cemetery, and whenever I pass it, I like to stop and try to read some of the headstones close enough to read, since the entrance is usually closed. I only stop for about 10 seconds and then continue walking. This past weekend, my dad decided to come, and we both took my dog for a walk around town. This time, when we got to the cemetery, the gate was open. I think the town only opens it at certain times, especially because a few years ago, some kids went in and vandalised it. My dad and I decided to stop in because I've never been in there before, and he wanted to show me some interesting headstones. When we got around to the second row of headstones from the entrance, I went to walk further into the cemetery, but when I looked back, my dog looked terrified all of a sudden, ears back, tail between her legs, and jumping on me for comfort. I had no idea what was wrong, and she would not go any further. My dad took the leash from me and went around a couple of minutes to look at some headstones. I was only gone about 2 minutes, but when I came back, my dog was so scared, my dad had to sit on the ground to comfort her. So we decided it was a good time to leave, and when we got back onto the sidewalk, my dog was fine, just as excited as she was before. It was such a strange experience. People commenting things like I was just about to say, that dogs can like sense things that people can't, but somebody else has commented saying, I'm not ruling out the paranormal, but maybe your dog could smell the human remains. I know the graves were old, but there could have been newer ones nearby. That must have been really frightening for a dog. And yeah, imagine being able to smell that. At the same time, I feel like your dog could be scared of something. They could have seen like a little weird thing in the graveyard, but at the same time, there could have just been like a weirdly shaped headstone or something weirdly shaped, and your dog just got freaked out by it. I understand that, like, you were saying your dog was really scared, but I've got a dog, and he's not even 1 yet, and he's only a little puppy, but he's huge. But when it was snowing, like, last month or whatever, I took him on a walk, and he literally went crazy at a snowman, because he probably just hadn't seen it before, and he was, like, literally going crazy, jumping around, wouldn't go near it, and I was trying to walk right up to it to show him that it was a snowman and not like a scary thing, because from a distance it was dark and it looked like another dog, but it wasn't. It was just a snowman. But I was trying to get him to go up to it so he could see it was fine, but he literally would not do it, so I just took him away. But I was laughing, but like he was just like going a bit mad. But I'm just thinking, did your dog just see like a weirdly shaped headstone, or something that looked like a person, or something that looked like another dog or an animal or something, and got like a weird feeling? But also, a graveyard is full of bodies, and it's like, it must have a weird energy in, especially for a dog who like can pick up energies and stuff. But yeah, let's go on to the final story of today, and this one is taken from the subreddit The Truth Is Here, and it's titled Blue Orb Floating Around Cemetery. Okay, so I know we've all seen the typical orb photos. Most of these have an explanation, such as glare, dust, etc. A few years ago, my friends and I were in the cemetery at night, because that's just kind of thing we did. We were strange people, still are. Half of our group, about 4 of them, was up on a hill by a mausoleum. I had 2 people with me. Suddenly, we see the group running like a bat out of hell. One of them, the oldest, 40s, yelled, "Go, go, go," and we saw them run down the hill. We ran out to meet them and asked what the hell that was about. She looked at me and said, "There's someone here. I think it's a security guard." Crap, we were caught. We saw a blue flashlight. It looked like one of those LED flashlights, bobbing towards us as we stood there waiting to get yelled at for being in a cemetery after hours. But as it got closer, we realised it wasn't a flashlight. It was a perfectly spherical, light blue orb bobbing along. It passed within 5 feet of us and kept going. I wish I'd have taken a video of it. It was the coolest and weirdest thing I've ever seen. Every once in a while, it would disappear, then reappear way across the cemetery. Sometimes we wouldn't even see it. We would just see a blue glow coming from behind a headstone. This was located in Boulder, Colorado. Anybody else experienced something like this? Somebody else has commented their story, which is quite similar, so I'm just gonna read that for you. But they've commented like another comment above it. If you want to like click on it, obviously it's linked below. You click on it yourself and you can read it if you want, but I'm just gonna read their little story. My fiancé and I decided to visit a graveyard that's well known for its blue ghost lights, which are said to dance along the gravestones. First, we visited during the day and took several photographs. We then went back after dark and took photographs from the exact same positions and angles using a flash. This way, we would have a direct comparison between the daytime and the nighttime photos. In one of the nighttime photos, we caught an extremely bright blue light. At first, we thought it was one of the numerous blue reflectors that are spaced throughout the cemetery, but this was where our daytime photos came in handy, as we could clearly see there was no reflector anywhere near the light. As I recall, there were objects behind the light and not too far from us, which meant the light couldn't have been off in the distance. It's too bad we didn't also take nighttime photos without the flash. For one thing, anytime you use a flash, you risk getting some sort of reflection, and secondly, we had to look away and close our eyes whenever we snapped a picture because of how bright the flash was. This means if the blue light was visible to the naked eye, we didn't get to see it. Lesson learned. While I was likely not paranormal, we have yet to find an explanation for the light. I would like to show it to a photography expert if we can find it. I think I've literally just mentioned this cemetery, St. James Cemetery in Liverpool. Why I've heard about a blue floating light in the cemetery, and maybe it's like a cemetery thing. I don't know, but I don't know what it is. But imagine like seeing that as well, and like it literally just floats past all of you and you all see it. Nobody takes pictures or films it. I'm not saying like, oh, you didn't take a picture, it's not real. I'm just saying like you would be that stunned in the moment. You wouldn't even be like, oh my god, get your phone out. You know what I mean? It would just be a weird thing. Also, can I please find some friends that will come and chill in the cemetery with me? And like when you said my friends and I were in a cemetery at night, we are strange people, still are. I was thinking you meant like teenagers, and then you said the person was 40, in the 40s. Like, can I please find friends like that? If you want to come to the cemetery with me, hit me up, you know. I will happily just go and chill in the cemetery at night. I would love to do that, but I'm too much of a scaredy little girl to do it by myself. So, if you want to come and chill in the cemetery with me at night, I'll do it. Hit me up. Also, though, I'm not saying it's not paranormal, but there is like things where what can cause light, like you've said, like somebody said in the comments, like car headlights and like just things. I don't know. Just things that have an explanation. I don't know what the explanation is off the top of my head, but they could have an explanation. Just seeing it though in person would be very scary. So anyway, that was the last story of today. Thanks so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed sharing this spooky time with you and sharing some real spooky stories. If you'd like to share your story, please email me on realspookystoriespodcast@gmail.com and join us on social media, all linked below as well as per usual. Obviously, as per usual as well, all of the Reddit stories that I've said today are linked below, so you can click on them, read them, have a little look at the comments and even comment yourself if you want. But thanks so much for listening, and I will see you next week at 12 p.m. on Sunday. Goodbye.